Hi everyone, welcome back to The Learning Gardener. If you haven't been here before, my name is Pip. Welcome to my backyard. We are going today to an area we haven't been in nearly a year. I have only been there once in the last year to vinegar spray weeds. We are going down the side of the house. This little gate was put in recently by my dad. It is the leftover remnants of, the dogs have escaped, of a fence that was around the courtyard of the garden in the original house. So if you go to our original house tour, when we first moved in here, you'll see that our courtyard was fenced off. And it's kind of good that the dogs have escaped out of the house because you see exactly why this fence is here. We have Airbnb neighbors here, which hopefully you can't hear, but that's why there'll be minimal audio for this video. So if the Airbnb neighbors come with a dog, which they have come with two this time, two that came to visit us at the front door because they got confused and lost, somebody has some very strong feelings that they like to express about that. So at least this fence stops her from spending her entire day down the side of the house barking and driving me mad as well as everybody else. Technically this is two massive coleus plants, but this angle only shows you one of them. These coleus plants overwintered somehow. They nearly died but hung on, and they've absolutely gone wild this year. They were huge last year and they're even bigger. But I have to fix this error. I have to fix the fact that I put mulch down the side of the house, and in doing so risked having white ants near the house. It was a stupid decision and I'm not quite sure why I did it or why it's taken me so long to fix this error. I packed up all the mulch that I could and I moved it in between the garden beds. There was one garden bed where I had dug a small trench in winter after the floods to try and encourage water that was gushing through the garden beds towards the main trench that I've dug that funnels the water down the back and into the creek. And this area was getting very, very grassy, so I laid down some cardboard and topped it with the mulch from the side alley. Apart from the white ants, the other reason why I wanted to lift the mulch was so that I could remove the weed mat that I placed down the side of the house. It stops water from soaking into the ground and actually funnels it in a strange way that has it pooling closer to the house, which I don't want because, again, wet spots around the house increase your likelihood of having termites. So that was an error I wanted to fix as well. Not to mention the fact that putting mulch on top of weed mat tends to just end up with weeds growing on top of your weed mat and a giant mess anyway. Along with being absolutely enormous, the coleus managed to be a prolific reproducer. There were so many tiny plants everywhere. Some of them got pulled up when the mulch got moved, and some of them I later removed. But my first job was to remove the blooms to prevent even more seeds coming. And while I was doing this, I found my new best bud, the blue-banded bee, which is a native Australian bee that kind of behaves like it's had too many Red Bulls, so it zips around really frantically. It's quite hard to catch on camera, and they are extraordinarily beautiful, but I did have to take its blooms away because this area I need to be able to pass through here, and this plant has just gotten way too big and way too beastly. Recently my dad took all the spare tiles from this area except for the broken ones, and he attached this black pipe to the air conditioning unit to funnel any water away from the air conditioning unit to again reduce the risk of damp areas, which would lead to increased risk of termites. I removed any broken tiles and left a space for Dad to bring back the other roof tiles, which he has painted after a roofer painted my tiles on the roof but didn't paint the spare tiles. And he basically did a runner on my job and on a lot of other local jobs, so I stopped waiting for him to come back and my dad stepped in. Anyway, this garden bed just needs so much work, but I first needed to just tidy up the brickwork and pull out some of the weeds. I will deal with the grass down the back on another day. I just wanted to get the main part of this job done. The massive grass growth down behind me actually needs to be hit with some vinegar to get rid of most of it before I go in and start pulling it out. I had a soil bag that I'd left down here last year, so I decided to top this garden bed because it was completely neglected, and I added some slow release fertilizer and some blood and bone fertilizer, and I planted some cuttings I took from the coleus in winter just before it was almost dead. And I have again neglected these coleus cuttings so severely in the kitchen, and somehow they have survived. Ordinarily they're not this hardy, but for some reason this particular coleus plant just wants to live forever. And coleus, like Mona lavender, which you will also see in the garden bed, like basil, which you will not because it doesn't get enough sunlight, if you just cut off a section of the plant, you don't have to cut anywhere specific, and you leave the roots submerged in water. Over the next few weeks you will get some roots forming and you have free plants. So I thought I might as well put these in, and there's not much of summer left, so it'll be interesting to see if they put on much growth at all. But really this garden bed, as you can see, has been erected to keep Birdie from digging out the weird retaining wall that's here and digging and sticking her head underneath the fence again where she met the dog next door, who is also a reactive dog. So there is chicken wire underneath these plants. There is also weed mat to prevent her being able to dig in any capacity underneath here. It was quite a job to put this in, but it does mean that I don't worry about her down the side other than from a noise perspective now. You can see just how massive both the Mona lavender and the coleus have become. They have extended the full 2 meters of this garden bed and completely dwarfed a Calthea plant that there's actually 2 of them that are in the middle. The Calthea really is, it can happily function as an indoor plant, so it is totally happy and healthy being swamped by these 2 plants, but it is a gorgeous perennial, so if the coleus dies back, there'll be something beautiful alongside the Mona lavender, which is a favorite shade plant of mine. So there will always be something beautiful there to look at out the window. And we've also got some Aquilegias or columbines and some Brunnera in pots, but we've got mostly just a ton of weeds and a ton of grass. So I really need to get in here and get it all pulled out. I'm really happy with the way this area has turned out. We got most of the weed mat up. Some of it has to stay where it is for now, both because I can't find my Stanley knife and because it's actually underneath some of the garden beds and some of the pavers to prevent Birdie from digging out, because she did have an issue with the neighbour's dog underneath the fence. So at least the weed mat in that situation actually prevents her from being able to dig, and there is also chicken wire underneath it. But I'm just going to spray these little bits in between the pavers and some of the mass of tiny coleus seedlings behind me, and then I will spray the mass of grass that's down the back there that I don't particularly want to deal with today because the bin is overflowing and this heat is oppressive. It is just so bad, even though we're in the shade, which is why I chose this job today. But oh my god, it is just so bad. So what I'm spraying these weeds with, or these residual whatever's left behind weeds, is a mix of double strength, I was going to say double strength vodka, but it's not double strength vodka. It is double strength vinegar and quite a healthy amount of dish soap, because you need something to help the vinegar stick to the plant in order to have the vinegar take effect. I have tried the recipes you'll see online of 1 tablespoon of dish soap per litre. It's not enough in my experience, and I've also tried it added with salt, which comes highly recommended, and my experience is all that does is clog up your spray gun, which is really annoying because spray gun words, my brain has melted. Spray guns are unreliable anyway, so I don't want them clogging up if they are working well. And I have honestly found just soap and vinegar is enough for most things. Some things will definitely need a second layer, but these tiny little grasses in here, they should be gone with the first. The wandering Tradescantia will probably need 2 or 3, but then nothing really kills that thing except Roundup. But I won't use Roundup anymore. About 18 months ago, I read something about Roundup that once it gets in your system, it's so persistent that it doesn't actually get out of your system until my granddaughter's children, which is crazy. So vinegar and vinegar alone is what we use. So I'm just going to finish spraying along here, and then I'll head back and do the very back near the air conditioner. I did sweep up the few seeds that were, couple of the seeds, and there's still a ton in between the pavers, so I'm going to have to either deal with that another day or pull them as they emerge. Probably pull them as they emerge, but hopefully now I'll be able to keep this area a little bit more tidy. I need to sort out the drainage through this area, but that can be a winter job because I think I'm going to need to dig some trenches, but I need to think about that a little bit more. But at the very least, the drainage should be better now that the weed mat is gone, and at least now I'm not worried about termites. Such a stupid idea putting mulch here. Here come the puppies. You smell vinegar, Revy? I definitely find the vinegar is most effective on a hot day. It's like the combination of the soap and the vinegar creates this layer that just bakes the weed or the grass or the whatever you're spraying. So I will come back out probably tomorrow and hit it again, because I think it's probably going to be just as bad tomorrow. But oh, it's so disgusting today. So I probably will come out again and hit it all again tomorrow, because it'll also be obvious tomorrow which ones I missed and didn't give enough of a coat. So I want to make sure I try and do a better job of maintaining this area, especially now I have a gate at the end to keep Birdie out while I'm working in here if need be, because of the neighbours. But even though this area is totally and completely neglected and the mic is probably picking up the aircon noise, I'm really happy with the way this area has turned out, mostly because, like I said, I think I've only been out here once to spray weeds in the last 12 months, and somehow, probably just by supreme luck, the lack of sunlight in this area, it's thrived, and it hasn't been watered, hasn't been fertilized, hasn't been taken care of at all. So I mean, hopefully this will continue to look lovely. This is my guest bedroom here, so this is where my parents stay when they come, or my niece and nephew share this bed. And being the guest room, it is really lovely that when the window goes from basically from the floor to the ceiling, we don't have high ceilings in this house, and that they have something really beautiful to look at. And this coleus has just put on spectacular display. It's looking a bit rough now because I gave it a pretty severe haircut, but the fact that it's now into its second season is pretty unreal. So I mean, long may it live. But I'm just gonna finish spraying the weeds down the back here, and then this area is about as done as it's gonna be for a little while. And then I've just got to go to the other side of the house into the courtyard and fix the privacy trees, because we had 100-kilometer-hour winds and they like bowled them over, which I was quite surprised about because they've been putting on a ton of growth. They had pretty big root balls. They were managing really well against our spring winds, which can be pretty intense. And we've had 100-kilometer-hour winds recently, but maybe because of the recent rains, it just made them a little bit more susceptible, and they have not straightened back up, which is a concern. So yesterday I went and bought a whole bunch of garden stakes, so we're going to go through and stake them up. It's been a job I've been putting off because I went to do it and I was going to stick my hand in the tree, and exactly where I was going to stick my hand in the tree was a massive wasp nest, and I'm really allergic to bees, so I would assume I am also allergic to wasp. And also I feel like a wasp nest in your hand is probably not going to go all that well. So I've been spraying them. I've been a bit twitchy about removing their nests because, again, I'm allergic and I just feel like I've had enough medical problems lately. So my best friend Rachel, who lives 3 doors down, is coming around to deal with them for me. She's a bit of a champion. If you're watching me, thank you very much. So we've got to deal with those trees because it's amazing now that they are fallen over how much privacy they were really giving me. And I know that was the purpose of putting them in, but it's quite like I feel very exposed without them. And what's interesting is the other day I was super tired, so my brain was not working at all, and my neighbor came out and said to me, is those trees going to straighten back up? And I thought, oh, she's going to ask me to remove them, and my brain was not working, so I was kind of like, what? Huh? What's happening? And she was like, oh, because I've just been really enjoying watching them from my kitchen sink, and I kind of miss having them, and I realize you put them up for your own privacy, but we kind of like them. So it's nice that someone else appreciates my efforts. So we're going to get those trees up and straight and hopefully keep them that way. So that's what we got to do after we do this. So I feel like I've really chosen the wrong day for this because it is just so unpleasant. Anyway, we better get to it. And once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Catch you later.